I was 10 miles deep in the forest, completely alone, when the silence broke. Two thunderous roars rolled through the trees, powerful enough to vibrate my chest. At first, I thought it was a bear fight. Then I saw them. Two Sasquatch. One was towering and jet black, its eyes glowing like embers. The other was massive and brown, its fur blending with the pines behind it. The black Sasquatch saw me first. It took a step in my direction, slow, heavy, confident, as if it had already decided I was prey. My legs wouldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Before it reached me, the brown Sasquatch exploded out of the brush and tackled it, shaking the ground. The forest erupted with violence, roars echoing like thunder, claws ripping bark from trees, fists smashing into flesh. The black Sasquatch lifted the brown one by the throat and slammed it against a tree so hard the trunk split. It leaned in with a snarl, ready to end the fight. But the brown Sasquatch roared back, louder, deeper, and threw the black one off its feet, sending it crashing into a ravine below. When the echoes faded, the brown Sasquatch turned toward me. It didn't growl. It didn't move closer. It just stared, breathing heavy, like it was making sure I was still alive. Then it turned and disappeared into the trees without a sound. I left that forest alive because a legend chose to protect me from another. I made it out of the forest, but the story didn't end there. 2 nights later, I woke up to tapping on my cabin window. Slow, steady, deliberate. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me until I heard that same deep roar echo through the trees behind my home. The news that morning hit me like a punch. A massive black-furred creature had been spotted near town. Same height, same build, same glowing eyes. It survived the fall, and it was angry. That night, the power went out. My phone died. The woods outside went dead silent, not even crickets. Then the footsteps began, heavy, intentional, getting closer. The black Sasquatch stopped at my door. I could hear its breathing through the wood, low and furious. The handle shook. Just when I thought the door would snap off the hinges, another roar tore through the darkness. The brown Sasquatch was back. Glass rattled. The ground trembled. I heard them collide just feet from my porch. Roars, snapping wood, fists slamming into flesh. The fight was wilder than before. Closer, louder, angrier. And then, silence again. The sun was rising when I stepped outside. My yard was torn apart. Trees uprooted, deep footprints everywhere. But only one set led away into the forest. The brown Sasquatch had won and disappeared once again. Part of me hopes I never see either one again. Another part knows I will. I thought the nightmare was over. The brown Sasquatch had saved my life twice. But 3 days later, the entire forest proved me wrong. The black Sasquatch didn't die. It came back bigger, stronger, like something in that ravine had revived it. I heard its roar echo through the valley before I even saw the trees falling in its path. This time, it wasn't hunting me. It was hunting a protector. When they finally met in the clearing, the forest went silent. 2 giants stood 10 feet apart, steam pouring from their breath in the cold morning air. Their roars shook birds from the treetops. Then they charged. The impact sounded like a car crash. Trees snapped as they rolled through brush and dirt, clawing, punching, tearing. The black Sasquatch slammed the brown into a boulder so hard it cracked in half. The brown grabbed the black by the jaw and threw it into the river, water exploding around its body. The fight didn't stop. They kept going, thrashing in the water, dragging each other under, roaring like thunder. The bank shook beneath my feet as I watched from the shadows, too scared to breathe. Knowing if either one saw me, I was dead. The brown Sasquatch finally broke free. It hurled the black onto the rocks and pinned it, roaring straight into its face, louder than anything I've heard. The black Sasquatch went still, but its eyes didn't close. They glowed. That's when I realized this wasn't just a territorial fight. The black Sasquatch wasn't normal. Something unnatural was inside it. Something old. Something angry. The brown Sasquatch stepped back, like it knew its foe wasn't finished, and the forest around us went quiet again. Whatever was coming next was bigger than both of them.
I didn't want to get involved. I was just a man in the wrong place. But when the black Sasquatch rose again, I knew this wouldn't end unless someone chose to end it. The brown Sasquatch was wounded, breathing heavy, bleeding into the river. The black one stood taller than before, eyes burning, body twisted, like something else was wearing its skin. It wasn't a creature anymore. It was pure rage. The black Sasquatch charged. The brown one tried to stand, and fell. That's when I moved. I grabbed the flare gun from my pack, hands shaking, heart pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. I fired. The flare hit the black Sasquatch in the chest and exploded in light and fire. It screamed, an inhuman sound, reeling backward into the rushing river. The brown Sasquatch didn't hesitate. It surged forward, grabbed the black one, and held it down as the flames burned. The water hissed. Steam filled the air. The black Sasquatch thrashed, then slowed, then went still. When it was over, the river carried the body away, downstream, out of sight. The forest exhaled. The brown Sasquatch turned to me. This time it nodded. Not as a beast, but as a warrior. Then it disappeared forever. I still hike those woods, but I don't go unarmed anymore. And I never forget. Sometimes survival means standing your ground.
I've been held captive by a clan of Sasquatch for 3 days now. If you're listening to this, I didn't make it. This is my story. I didn't even realize I was being followed at first. It started with the silence, then 3 knocks. Always spaced out and from different directions, as if they were communicating with each other. The first night, I saw their eyes in the dark. They reflected like cat's eyes, but too high off the ground. They didn't rush me. They waited until I was exhausted, until fear did the work for them. When they stepped out, there were 5 massive creatures. This wasn't some random encounter. It was organized. The largest one grabbed me. I didn't bother to fight or struggle. It was no use. His strength was immeasurable. One of the others grabbed my gear. They brought me to a bowl-shaped ravine, hidden by rock walls and deadfall. No phone or GPS signal. No clear exit. They stack stones at the edges like boundary markers. One always stands guard at the entrance. They feed me roots, berries, something like dried meat. They watch while I eat. They're always watching. Last night, the largest one crouched in front of me. Its face was intelligent, sad almost. It pressed its forehead to mine, and I don't know how else to explain it, but images flooded my head. Logging roads, floodlights, gunfire, fires tearing through forest, dead kin, horrific images. They aren't monsters. They're refugees, and they're deciding what to do with me. They argue about me often. There's a reddish-colored one that I can tell hates me. He pointed at me during the argument and snapped a large branch in half and dropped it to the ground. He pointed the broken branch, then at me again. The message was clear. It appears that we're moving on again. I'm leaving this digital recorder here. If anyone finds it, don't track my GPS. Don't send a search party because I'm afraid I'll most likely already dead, and I don't want your blood on my hands.
I thought the river would drown out anything dangerous. That's what I told myself as we pushed our kayaks into the black water and let the current pull us deeper into the Frank Church River of no-return wilderness. The canyon walls rose so high they swallowed the sky, and the only way out was downstream. At first it was perfect. Cold spray, clean lines through the rapids, the sound of water slamming rock. Then we noticed the rocks on the bank. One landed close enough to slap the surface beside my bow, thrown hard and deliberate, not a tumble from above. We eddied out and scanned the tree line. Nothing. Just dense timber and shadow. We pushed on, telling ourselves it was falling debris, nerves getting the better of us. That's when the smell hit, wet earth and rot, and the sound followed, a low, pulsing whoop that rolled along the canyon and echoed back wrong, like the river didn't want to carry it. I glanced over my shoulder and saw movement pacing us on the bank. Too tall, too fast. It kept stride with the current, stepping over boulders without slipping, never breaking rhythm. The next rapid came up blind and violent. We punched through, white water exploding over our decks, and when I surfaced, I heard it again. Closer now, branches snapping as something barreled through brush parallel to us. Another rock slammed into the water ahead of my friend's kayak, forcing him left, exactly where the river narrowed and the walls closed in. That's when it clicked. This wasn't random. We were being guided, herded. At dusk, we pulled into a gravel bar to catch our breath, hearts hammering. The forest went silent, even the insects. I felt it before I heard it, the vibration of footsteps in the ground. A shape emerged across the river, towering above the willows, shoulders wider than a raft frame, eyes catching the last light like dull embers. It didn't rush us. It stood there watching, breathing slow and steady, while the current hissed between us. Then it stepped back into the trees, leaving us shaking in the half-light. We paddled through the night after that, no headlamps, no talking, letting the river take us wherever it wanted. Every bend felt watched. Every scrape of hull on rock sounded like a warning. Near dawn, the canyon opened and the pressure lifted, like we'd crossed an invisible line. We never saw it again. People say the wilderness is empty. I know better now. Some places don't want you there. And if they let you leave, it's not because you won. It's because they decided you were done. I didn't believe the stories before that night. Sarah and I had laughed about them earlier that day as we crossed the last trail marker and pushed deeper into the Bridger Wilderness area. The sun dipped fast behind the mountains, faster than we expected, and the woods change the way they always do when darkness settles in. Sounds stretch farther, shadows stop behaving, and every instinct starts whispering that you don't belong. We decided to hike out anyway. That was our mistake. It started with footsteps that weren't ours. Slow at first, heavy, too deliberate to be an animal. I remember Sarah squeezing my arm and whispering my name, her voice tight, like she was trying not to panic. I told her it was probably an elk, maybe a bear moving parallel to us. We picked up our pace. The trail narrowed, rocks crunching under our boots, and that's when something snapped behind us. Wood breaking, thick and wet, like a tree limb being twisted apart. Sarah gasped. I turned just long enough to see movement between the trunks. Tall, dark, wide. Not a bear. Bears don't move like that. This thing flowed through the forest, weaving between trees without slowing, its silhouette blocking out the stars as it crossed an open stretch of trail. I grabbed Sarah's hand and ran. My headlamp bounced wildly, lighting up bark, brush, nothing solid enough to focus on. Behind us, the footsteps changed. Faster now, closer. The roar came when we slipped, a sound so deep it vibrated through the ground. Not angry, not panicked, territorial. The beam of my light caught it then, just for a heartbeat. Massive shoulders, long arms hanging too low, eyes reflecting dull amber before it vanished again. It stepped onto the trail ahead of us, blocking the way, forcing us off into the brush. That's when I realized it wasn't chasing blindly. It was controlling us. We dove into thick undergrowth and crouched low, pulling Sarah against me, not daring to breathe. The forest went silent. No insects, no wind. Just the sound of something circling us slowly, close enough that I could smell it. Wet earth and musk. It stopped a few feet away. I felt the vibration of its breath through the ground. Then after what felt like forever, it snorted softly and backed away. Footsteps faded. When we finally stumbled back onto the trail and out of the wilderness, no one believed us. Rangers said we'd panicked. That exhaustion can make the mind fill in gaps. Maybe they're right. But sometimes, late at night, Sarah still wakes up shaking and says she hears footsteps pacing the house. Slow, heavy, patient. And every time I think about that night, one thought won't leave me. It didn't catch us because it didn't want to. People think Montana feels empty because it's quiet.
That's wrong. It's quiet, because nothing wants to be heard. I was tracking wildlife for the state when I found the footprints, 3 miles off trail, bare feet, 5 toes, a deep heel strike, and a long, even stride, too long. The pattern was familiar in a way I didn't like. I'd seen casts like it before, locked away in evidence drawers, always labeled inconclusive. Whatever made them wasn't lost. It wasn't hunting. It was traveling. I camped downhill out of sight. No fire, no light. At 11:47 p.m., the forest shut off. No wind, no insects. That's when I heard it. 3 heavy knocks. Wood on wood. Not random, not distant. Close enough that I felt it through the ground. I didn't answer. I knew better. When I raised my thermal scope, I saw a heat signature standing at the tree line. Upright. Broad shoulders, long arms hanging lower than they should, completely still, not trying to hide, just positioned where it could watch my camp without being seen itself. The shape matched the cases I'd studied for years but never believed. By morning, one of my trail cameras was gone. I found it mounted 8 feet up a tree, facing inward. The casing was crushed like it had been twisted. The last image showed something crouched low, too close to the lens. Dense muscle, no visible neck. Eyes reflecting the light. It knew what the camera was. That's when I understood why people don't find tracks leading out. Sasquatch doesn't have to chase you. It lets you know it can reach you whenever it wants. I left at first light. I never heard it follow. I never heard it stop. But when I reached the trailhead, I realized I'd been evaluated, which was somehow worse than being hunted. I guess I passed because I was allowed to leave.
I thought it was hail at first. Soft taps against the cabin window. One, then another. Too slow. Too deliberate. I killed the lantern and listened. Tap. A pebble slid down the glass and landed on the sill. My cabin sits miles from the nearest road, deep in the trees, and no one hikes out here at night. Then it happened again. Harder this time. Crack. A small stone bounced off the pane and dropped to the porch. I eased the curtain back just enough to look. That's when I saw the hand. Long fingers. Hair matted with rain. Another pebble hit the window, then another. Not trying to break in, trying to make me look. When I finally did, I met 2 dull yellow eyes staring back from the tree line, level with the window, far too high off the ground. I didn't sleep. I found a neat pile of stones on the porch the next morning. I was 3 miles into the woods when everything went quiet. No birds, no wind, just my footsteps. Then I heard it, one knock, deep, hollow, like a log slammed against a tree. I froze. Another knock, closer this time. That's when I smelled it. Wet earth, rot, something alive that hadn't bathed in years. Branches snapped behind me, slow, heavy, deliberate. I turned just enough to see a shape between the trees, too tall, too wide, and moving without a sound. Then it screamed, not an animal, not human. I ran. As I burst onto the trail, something hit a tree inches from my head. A rock the size of a football. Behind me, the knocking started again. 3 times, like it was counting.
I've been a park ranger in Yellowstone for 8 years, and I've never logged a report like this. It started at 2:17 a.m. when dispatch radioed me. Ranger unit, possible animal attack near the old service road by Tower Junction. I drove in with my spotlight sweeping the trees, expecting a bear, but the forest was too quiet. No wind, no insects, just dead silence. Then I saw the tracks. Huge canine. Bigger than any wolf I've ever seen, and the footprints were bipedal like a man. That's when I smelled the rot, like something had been dead for weeks. And then I heard a long, cracked scream. My light caught movement between the pines. A tall, pale shape, twisted, thin, with antlers rising from its skull like broken branches. A wendigo, and it was dragging something or someone. Then the trees exploded. A massive dog man lunged out, 9 feet tall, shoulders like a grizzly, teeth flashing in my spotlight. It hit the wendigo like a freight train. They rolled through the snow, snapping and shrieking. the Wendigo's arms stretching too far, clawing like spiders. The dogman grabbed it by the throat and bit down. The Wendigo screamed, this awful sound like metal tearing. Then it screamed my name in my mother's voice. I froze. I couldn't move or breathe. The dogman suddenly looked right at me, its eyes glowing gold, like it was warning me. Then it dragged the Wendigo into the darkness like it was nothing. And the last thing I heard before the silence returned was bones cracking and something laughing in the trees. I filed the report as mountain lion activity. Know this, if you hike Yellowstone at night, you're not alone.
I woke up because my dog was growling at the window. Low, constant, terrified. I live on the second floor, no trees close enough to reach it. I pulled the curtain back an inch. Something pale clung to the outside wall, fingers bent the wrong way, joints bulging like they'd been broken and reset wrong. Its skin looked stretched, too tight, like it didn't belong on it. Then it smiled. No lips, just teeth. It tapped on the glass once, twice. Then it whispered soft and wet, "Can you let me in? I don't bend right." I stepped back. The tapping stopped. When I looked again, it was gone, except for the handprint sliding slowly down the window, from the outside. I broke my leg 5 miles from the trailhead. I remember thinking, this is where I disappear. Then the forest went silent. Heavy footsteps came from the trees, slow, careful. A massive shape stepped into the moonlight. Bigfoot. Before I could panic, it gently lifted me, like I weighed nothing. Its grip was warm, steady, almost careful not to hurt me. I faded in and out as it carried me through the dark. Just before dawn, it set me down on the trail. I heard voices, search and rescue calling my name. I looked up. Bigfoot stood at the tree line, watching. When the rescuers turned toward me, it stepped back into the forest,